Once upon a time, there were 25 tin soldiers that were in a box. The toy soldiers were brave and handsome. Each tin soldier wore a smart blue uniform. One soldier that had been made last had only one leg, as the toy maker had run out of tin. The one-legged tin soldier was as brave and handsome as all the other soldiers in the box. The box was given to a boy on his birthday. The boy placed the box in his room filled with wonderful toys. The tin soldier noticed a beautiful doll that stood on one leg in her ballerina pose. He fell in love with her at once, as he believed she stood on one leg just like him, and she was so lovely. The ballerina thought the tin soldier was so handsome. She fell in love with him at first sight, too. One day, the boy took the soldier out to play by the canal. He made a paper boat and put the tin soldier in it. All of a sudden, a big downpour whisked away the paper boat, and the brave tin soldier sailed quickly towards a dark tunnel. He was very brave and stood steadfast on his one leg. In the tunnel was a big rat who demanded to see the tin soldiers pass. The water came so fast that the rat could not catch the paper boat, and the tin soldier was happy to be out of the rat's reach. The tin soldier wondered what lay ahead as he stood bravely in his paper boat in the dark tunnel. He also wondered if he would ever see his true love, the ballerina, ever again. Suddenly, he heard a great wall of water. The tin soldier knew he was heading for the end of the tunnel, and a great waterfall must lay ahead. He stood bravely on his one leg as his soggy paper boat flipped end over end and sank into the whirlpool at the end of the waterfall. He thought to himself, "I will never see my ballerina again." All of a sudden, a great fish swallowed him up. It was so dark inside the giant fish, but the tin soldier was as brave as ever. After a long time, the fish was caught by a fisherman's hook. The fisherman took the fish home to cook for dinner. Upon cleaning the fish, the cook exclaimed, "Well, if it is not the young boy's toy tin soldier inside this fish." The tin soldier was thrilled to be home as the cook placed him back in the toy room. The tin soldier saw his sweet ballerina poised on her one leg across the room. The one-legged toy soldier smiled when the little boy approached. "Where have you been?" said the little boy. "You smell like fish and are so dirty." The little boy opened the window and tossed the tin soldier out the window. The tin soldier remained brave as he landed on a large bed of petunias below the window. The tin soldier was very sad, but he remained brave as he lay among the flowers. Just then, as the boy was playing with the ballerina on the window ledge, a gentle wind knocked the ballerina to the ground below. Straight into the petunia garden. The brave tin soldier could not believe his eyes when his ballerina landed right in front of him. The tin soldier asked her to stay with him and be his wife. "Yes," she exclaimed, "I thought you would never ask." The tin soldier and his ballerina were married in the flower garden below. In the moonlight, she would dance for him among the flower petals. They remained true to each other forever, living in the lovely flower garden as husband and wife. High above the city stood the fine statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilded all over with gold leaf, and his eyes were bright sapphires. A large red ruby was in his sword. "He is as beautiful as a weather vane," said one of the town councillors, who wished to be known for his artistic tastes. One little boy in the city was crying for the moon, and his mother asked him, "Why can't you be like the Happy Prince, who never dreams of crying for anything?" Everyone loved the Happy Prince statue in the city. "He looks like an angel," remarked the children of the school. Their math teacher asked, "How would you know? Have you ever seen an angel?" "Of course," said the children, "in our dreams." One day a lonely swallow landed on the Happy Prince for a rest. He nestled in between the statue's feet to go to sleep. But just as he was about to fall asleep, a large drop of water fell on the swallow. The swallow saw no clouds and could not understand where these drops were coming from. The swallow looked up and saw the statue's eyes were full of teardrops, and that is where the drops were coming from. "Who are you?" asked the swallow. "Well, I am the Happy Prince," said the statue. "Why are you crying?" asked the swallow. "I was a happy human prince my whole life, and when I died, they put me up here to see all the city's sadness, and so I weep. I can see a very sad seamstress who has a very sick son. She is so very poor. Swallow, swallow, will you bring her the ruby from my sword?" asked the Happy Prince statue. "Oh, but I must be leaving to meet my swallow family," said the swallow. "Oh, swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not stay with me for just one day and help me?" The swallow agreed to stay and help to be the messenger for the prince. He flew the ruby to the seamstress's house in the night and laid the precious red stone beside her thimble. He cooled her sick child with a flutter of his wings, and the boy began to feel better. The swallow flew back to the prince to tell him all was done. "I will leave tomorrow." "Please, swallow, stay one more night to help me," the Happy Prince asked the swallow. He asked the swallow to take one of his sapphire eyes to help a poor playwright to finish his play. The little swallow snuck into the playwright's room and left the sapphire. The playwright was overwhelmed and could not believe his luck. The swallow returned to tell the Happy Prince how happy the playwright was. The swallow said goodbye, but the prince asked for his help again, to give his other sapphire eye to the little match girl in the square below. "But if I pluck out your eye, you will be blind." "Do not worry, little swallow. Go and join your family now." But the little swallow insisted on staying forever with the Happy Prince. The Happy Prince asked the swallow to take each leaf of his gold to help the poor in his city, and so the swallow did, as the Happy Prince asked, leaving the Happy Prince looking quite dull. The swallow stayed too long, and the cold winter made him very sick. He knew he was going to die. He told the prince he loved him and kissed him on the lips before falling at the statue's feet to his death. At that moment, a strange cracking noise sounded from inside the statue. The leaded heart of the statue had been broken. The city councillors took down the Happy Prince statue as it no longer was gold with precious rubies and sapphires. They found a dead bird at its feet and sent everything to be taken away to the garbage. God was looking down and sent 2 of his angels to bring the 2 most precious things from the city to him. The angels found the dead bird and the broken leaded heart and statue and brought them to God. God thanked them so much. He brought the little swallow back to life and repaired the statue and his broken heart. And he put them in his Garden of Eden for the little swallow to sing forever and live with his happy prince statue. A long time ago, a beautiful young woman was forced to live in an enchanted castle with a hideous beast. Belle had agreed to be his prisoner in place of her father. Belle soon discovered that she and the beast were not the only people living in the enchanted castle. To her surprise, she found out that the former servants of the castle had been magically transformed into everyday objects: a teapot, a teacup, a candelabra, a clock. Meanwhile, the beast was very nervous. A long, long time ago, the evil witch who had turned him from a handsome prince into an ugly beast had warned him that he must learn to love and be loved to break the spell and turn back into a handsome prince. He had lost all hope until he met Belle. He was afraid she would never ever see him as a prince, but only as a monster. "She is so beautiful, and just look at me," he shouted to the servants. Mrs. Potts, the teapot, told him, "You must help her see past all that," she said. The candelabra agreed with Mrs. Potts. They told the beast to be a gentleman, compliment her, be kind, gentle, and sincere, but mostly to control his temper. The beast invited Belle to dinner, but she said, "No, thank you." The beast got very angry and roared, "If she doesn't eat with me, she doesn't eat at all." Despite their master's orders, Mrs. Potts secretly fed Belle dinner. Mrs. Potts and the other servants entertained Belle, and they all laughed and sang, "Be our guest." Belle was very fond of all the servants, but wanted nothing to do with the beast. Only after he proved that he cared by protecting her from the wolves did she begin to trust him. Slowly over time, they became friends. One day, as they played in the snow, Belle watched the beast hand feed the birds, and she realized there was a side of him she had never seen before. A kind and gentle side. The beast was so happy that Belle was no longer afraid of him. The beast wanted to give Belle a special gift for bringing happiness back into his life. He asked Belle to cover her eyes, and he led her into an enormous library. Belle could not believe her eyes when she saw all of the books. "They're all yours," said the beast. He knew how much she loved books. "Oh, thank you so much," she smiled. Belle read many books to the beast, and their friendship grew very strong. They each found they could talk and laugh with each other as they could with no one else. One night, a very special evening was planned. The beast wanted everything to be perfect. He worried very much about how he looked. The candelabra and mantel clock helped him to get ready. They told the beast how handsome and elegant he looked. When he saw Belle looking so beautiful in her ball gown, the beast bowed. At dinner, the beast was the perfect gentleman, and when Mrs. Potts began to sing a love song, the beast asked Belle to dance. She said yes, and they danced in each other's arms. The servants watching from the doorway were so happy for the beast. They would not have guessed that the beast's love for Belle would send her away. But he told Belle she was free to go. He could no longer keep her a prisoner. Belle left to visit her sick father. The beast's heart was broken. Villagers attacked his castle and he could not fight. He let them come in. Belle realized she belonged with the beast and returned to find him. Belle found the beast wounded and dying, "At least I get to see you one last time," said the beast, gazing into Belle's eyes. "No," cried Belle. "I love you." All of a sudden, a great beam of light beamed down on the beast. He returned to his human form. Belle stared at the handsome prince in front of her. "Belle, it's me," he assured her. Looking deep into his eyes, she saw her friend's gentleness and love. "It is you," Belle cried, and she kissed him joyfully. Fireworks lit up the sky, and all the servants became humans again. To celebrate this great event, the prince and Belle had a fantastic ball in their shining, perfect castle. Belle wore her stunning evening gown, and the prince looked handsome and dashing. All the servant friends attended the grand ball as well. Belle and the prince danced in each other's arms all night. It was very clear for all to see how much they were in love. Belle and the prince lived happily ever after. A long time ago, a woodcutter lived on the edge of a large forest with his 2 children, a girl named Gretel and his son named Hansel, and his wife, who was the children's stepmother. They were very poor, despite all the woodcutter's hard work. One year there was a terrible famine, and there was not enough food for the whole family. One night, the stepmother told the woodcutter they must take Hansel and Gretel deep into the forest and leave them there. Hansel overheard them talking. He told Gretel the terrible plan. Then, Hansel had a great idea. He would fill his pockets with white pebbles to leave a path back to the house when this happened. The next morning, the stepmother said they all had to go into the woods to gather firewood. As they walked deeper and deeper into the woods, Hansel dropped his white pebbles to mark the path back to their house. The next day, Hansel and Gretel returned back to the house. Their stepmother was very angry. She told the woodcutter to take them deeper into the woods. This time, Hansel marked their path with breadcrumbs from his pocket so they could find their way home. In the morning, there were no breadcrumbs. The woodland animals had eaten them all. Hansel and Gretel began to walk through the forest, and suddenly, they could not believe their eyes. They found the most amazing house, made of gingerbread, with a roof of icing and windows made of sugar. They were so hungry, they broke off a piece of the house to eat. Then they heard a voice. "Nibble, nibble like a mouse. Who's that nibbling at my house?" The door opened, and an old woman leaning on a cane frightened Hansel and Gretel. The woman then smiled and invited Hansel and Gretel into her house for a delicious dinner of pancakes and apples. After dinner, she said they could stay for the night, and she made up the beds for them, as sweet and kind as any grandmother. The children had no idea the old woman was really a wicked witch. Before Hansel and Gretel awoke the next morning, the wicked witch carried Hansel to a cage she had built and locked him inside. "Now I can fatten you up so I can eat you." The witch made Gretel cook, so Hansel would grow plump. The children cried and begged to be set free, but the wicked witch just laughed at them. Every day the wicked witch, who could not see very well, wanted to feel Hansel's fingers through the bars of the cage, so she could feel how plump he was getting, plump enough to eat. But Hansel cleverly only gave her an old bone to feel. She thought he was always much too thin for her to eat. Weeks went by, and the witch was becoming impatient, as Hansel didn't seem to be growing any fatter. One morning, the witch ordered Gretel to make a fire in the oven. After a while, the witch said to Gretel, "Climb up into the oven to see if the fire is ready." Gretel asked, "But how can I get into the oven to see?" The witch was impatient and climbed up herself to show Gretel how to look at the fire. Quick as a wink, Gretel shoved the old witch into the oven. Then she banged the door shut. Gretel ran over to free Hansel from the cage. They now had nothing to be afraid of. They explored the witch's house and found jewels and gold coins in every corner. Hansel and Gretel filled their pockets with all the riches and gold coins, and they set out to find their way home. They walked for a long time and finally came to the edge of a big lake. "How can we ever cross without a bridge or a boat?" said Hansel. "Here comes a swan," said Gretel. "I will ask her to help us." The beautiful swan agreed to carry them across the lake. Once they were on the other side, they recognized the forest edge, and they began to run down the path towards home. When the woodcutter saw them running towards him, he cried tears of joy for seeing his children. He did not have a moment of peace since he had left them in the forest. His wife had died while they were gone. The children emptied their pockets of all the gold, rubies, and diamonds. The father could not believe his eyes. The woodcutter, Hansel and Gretel all lived happily ever after, with the help of the witch's gold and treasures.